Islam, Shalom, Hola, Aloha, Bonjour, Assalamu Alaikum, Osio. This your brother Zach Bay, Indigenous American Moor, coming to you live in full effect. Like, share, subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified whenever I'm dropping new content. Leave a comment, interact with me. Thank you. I really do appreciate your viewership. Let's jump into another one. Back at it again with another episode of Black's Law Dictionary. Now this one, I had to think about this for a little bit and I started to connect some dots and I wanted to make some connections for you. So I've been thinking about how the insurance companies on the West Coast backed out after those before those fires, and giving people a lot of issues on trying to reclaim or trying to reestablish insurance for their property. They're just completely backing out of the area and they're not covering anyone. And they're also not covering the claims that people have had, that people have been paying their premiums for. So they're pretty much breaking contracts. Also connecting that to how the insurance companies backed out of Florida when it was news of flooding, a lot of flooding, and the hurricane coming toward that area a few months ago. All right. I think this is really, really concerning, fam, because these insurance companies are just breaking their contracts, but yet they're steady enriching themselves off of the backs of everyday customers that are paying their premiums, right? It doesn't make any sense. I also heard reports of automobile insurance companies not covering the damage automobiles that were in the wake of the hurricane. Also automobiles that were in the wake of the fires that were out there on the West Coast. Now I want to read Black's Law Dictionary 4th edition, and I want to check out the definition for insurance and a few other definitions. All right. Hopefully you can see it. Hopefully everything's legible, and hopefully you really get the message I'm trying to convey here. All right, so insurance. I want to start off here. It says an agreement by which one party for the consideration promises to pay money or its equivalent to do an act valuable to other party upon destruction, loss, or injury of something in which other party has an interest. All right. Then it says a contract whereby one undertakes to indemnify another against loss, damage, or liability. You see that? Liability arising from an unknown or contingent event and is applicable only to some contingency or act to occur in the future. All right, so it's pretty much just stating what type of insurance for the most part. All right, a party agreeing to make the compensation is usually called the insurer or the underwriter. All right, so insurer and underwriter synonymous. The insured or the assured, the agreed consideration, the premium. All right. So the premium is whatever you agree that's agreed between the parties to be paid. And then the contract itself, the written contract, is the policy. All right. The event in the event the insured is against risk or perils. All right. And the subject's right to interest to be protected in the insured. All right, so it's pretty much just breaking down like what insurance is in a nutshell, the type of insurance that might be covered, the name of the parties, both parties, the insured and the insured and the assured. So it's pretty much breaking it down pretty simple. All right, I wanted to read this one really fast. It says automobile insurance may embrace insurance against loss of or damages to a motor vehicle caused by fire. All right, it specifically says fire, and says windstorms, thefts, collision, or other insurable hazards. All right, also against legal liability for personal injury or damages to property resulting from the operation of the vehicle. All right, so it's saying if you have an automobile, it should be covered against fires, winds, all this stuff should be in your policy. All right. So as far as people not being covered by their insurance companies, if you had the proper insurance and they backed out, they reneged on that contract, which means they broke that contract, which means all their customers, the ones who have been denied, rerouted, all of these customers should be they should have some type of remedy on the way. They should all be all of those companies that backed out should be liable for damages, fam. That's what I'm trying to say here. So fire insurance, it says a contract of insurance by which the underwriter in consideration of the premium undertakes to indemnify the insured against all losses in his house, buildings, or furniture, ships, imports, or merchandise by means of accidental fire happenings within a prescribed period. All right, so you see that last part, within a prescribed period. All right, so that within that prescribed period should be as long as your premium is paid up, and as long as that insurance contract is withstanding. These people's homes and buildings, all of their artifacts should have been, all of their personal effects should have been covered in fire insurance, fam. But those insurance companies really pulled out months before those fires happened, fam. And it's like all the liability was just completely left. All right, so before I did that, I wanted to read this one. There wasn't a part on flood insurance, but I just have flood right here. All right, so flood, it says an inundation of water over land not usually covered by it, such an accident is an act of God. All right, so flooding will be considered an act of God. And then I wanted to look exactly what they meant by like an act of God. I want to see the legal definition of act of God, because that made me think about how during 9/11, all right, the insurance, now this information is verifiable. You can check this out yourself. During 9/11, the insurance companies for the Twin Towers, the World Trade Centers, they somehow added right before the so-called attack happened. All right, right before that happened, they modified the insurance and they added acts of terror inside of the insurance coverage for the Twin Towers. So whatever company had the Twin Towers assured, all right, they put in writing acts of terror. Now that just made me think about like act of God, act of terror, act of God. And if a flood or like natural events are considered acts of God, then it's like they can almost add any type of stipulation they want inside these insurance policies. All right, an act occasioned exclusively by violence of nature without the interference of any human agency. It means a natural necessity proceeding from physical cause alone without intervention of man. It is an act, event, happening, or occurrence, a disaster, and effect due to natural causes, an inevitable accident or disaster. All right, so that's considered an act of God. All right, so if a flood is considered an act of God, and there's flood insurance, and certain fires are considered acts of God, and all those things can be covered by insurance companies, fam. And then they also, that one part about acts of terror being covered inside 9/11. I just wanted to make that connection. And I want to connect the backing out of the insurance companies on the East Coast from the hurricane and the flooding all the way over to the West Coast from the alleged wildfires, and the insurance companies backing out over there as well. Now, I'm calling fraud on these insurance companies who somehow backed out just in the nick of time to free themselves from the liability of those contracts. All right, allegedly free themselves. In my opinion, I feel like it's definitely fraud, fam. So let's check it out. An intentional perversion of truth for the purpose of inducing another in reliance upon it to part with some valuable thing belonging to him, or to surrender a legal right. All right, fraud. They made all those customers surrender a legal right, their legal right for compensation, fam. A false representation of a matter of fact, whether by words or by conduct, by false or misleading allegations, or by concealment of that which should have been disclosed, which deserves and is intended to, which deceives and is intended to deceive another, so that he shall act upon it to his legal injury. All right, so that's pretty much what the fraud was. These insurance companies backed out of the policies of the contracts that they had with the customers, and they did not pay them, fam. I really just wanted to make that connection. Hopefully you see exactly where I'm going with this. If you have any questions, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Once again, this is your brother Zach Bay. Peace.